Okay, so following last week's winter weather, many are in search of plumbers to help with their winter weather damage woes. But you should be wary on who you hire. Janna Kiehl with the Better Business Bureau here in Amarillo has some tips to keep in mind when hiring any contractor to come work in your home. Janna, thanks for being with me today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Okay, so we're hearing a lot of reports of some scammers out there when it comes to, but coming in to fix your busted pipes. Luckily, I don't think there were too many of those in Amarillo, but scammers are everywhere, right? So, what are some things that we need to watch out for with these people?
The first thing you want to do, of course, is check their BBB report. We will have licensing information on that report, and you can double check that at the State Board of Licensing as well. Make sure you're using a licensed contractor so that you know the job will be done right. And an accredited business with the BBB will also get you the job done right. And if there are any problems with the job, they're going to fix them and help resolve those problems.
And some other things that we're wanting to look at on top of that, is you want to make sure to read your estimate carefully, right? Just to make sure that you're getting the deal that's right for you.
You do want to read your estimate and listen to the contractor and let him tell you exactly what is going to happen. What are they going to do in your home? What needs to happen? Will the water need to be turned off? Will you be out of water for a period of time? Will you be able to, stay in the home while this is happening? You want to look at that carefully and make sure you understand everything. But before you get to that point, it's a good idea to get some bids as well. Get two or three bids and ask, all the details about what's going to go into that bid and how that's going to affect your specific project. And then you can make a good decision based on all the information you have.
And then, always, not necessarily, this doesn't really tie into scamming, but you should ask before you buy, especially if you're going to be installing fixtures or things like that, replacing pipes, and you buy the products on your own, right? One of the first steps you should do when contracting a plumber is saying, hey, are you going to be able to install this? Are you willing to install this, right? Instead of just hiring and not clarifying some of these things.
Right. If you have your own different parts that you want to use, make sure that they can do that for you, but they're going to give you some information about how that would work with their installation process and what where that would put you with any type of warranties or guarantees. So you have to have all that information up front before you make that decision. And it's always good to check several sources. Like I mentioned, the State Board of Plumbing, the Better Business Bureau, ask the company if they can do your job, if they're able to accomplish it, and in what time period, so that everything's laid out on the table, and you're not just thinking that this is going to take one day and you're going to be fixed by tomorrow. Contractors are very busy right now. They are very very busy, and they're trying to get everybody back up and running. And so be patient with that, and know that it's going to take a little bit of time to get everybody back to normal.
And when we think of the word scam, we usually think of, people stealing our money and never doing the job at all. But sometimes it could just come down to, I hired you to do it. You kind of halfway did the work, and now I'm left with a half finished job and you have my money. What are we supposed to do in situations like that?
Well, sometimes it is a company that wants to just take your money, and sometimes really it's not that at all. It's just a misunderstanding, or it's a type of situation where a consumer is not sure that the company is going to come back. Maybe there was some bad situation during the transaction of the business. So you need to know up front again. What's going on. Can you work with the company? You might get two or three bids and think that the lowest bid is the best deal, when in fact that's not the case. There are other elements to consider, like, can the company complete this job? Do they have the equipment and the people to be able to do it in my time frame? Do they get along with you? Because most plumbing jobs are going to be done inside the home, and they're going to be in your home. Can you work with that company, and is this a good relationship? So there's a lot of things to consider when hiring a company. And you always want, like I said, make sure you're using someone who is licensed and able to do your job.
And another tip I was reading are contracts, contracts, contracts. Get it in writing, everything that you want done, right?
You do want to get it in writing and make sure that everything is specified there so you know what you're getting into. But keep in mind as well, when someone gets into a project, there may be added costs if there are added problems or added things that need to be fixed. So, you might think, well, it's a leaky faucet, but if you need to replace the entire faucet and some of the, faucets underneath the sink, then absolutely, you have to be open to that. And he should be willing to get you to understand, you know, why this is happening and what's going on with that specific project.
And another thing you're going to want to look at is, checking your warranties and check the warranties of both the products and the plumber's labor, right? I know we kind of mentioned that earlier, but it's a important thing that I think a lot of times people forget about.
You want to ask, is there a guarantee with this? How long is the guarantee? Will you come back after a period of time if there's a problem? Most of the time, they'll tell you, if this doesn't work, call us back. And you want to know that up front. And that's really important when using a reputable company because most of those companies are willing to do that. We have not heard here in Amarillo, as you mentioned, of any companies just coming in and getting a lot of plumbing work done. Usually people here will use companies that are have longstanding relationships here and companies they can check out at BBB. But you want to make sure that you're not using someone you've never heard of before or someone who you cannot look up, on a common website. Because that might be a red flag that someone has either started up a brand new business to take advantage of all of the work that's going on right now, or they've come in from another community and they're not well established here yet. That doesn't mean they're not a good business, but we do need to know who they are in order to check them out and give the consumers that information about the company.
One thing we're, starting to see become more common is people going door to door offering services. We see it in severe weather season when we have high winds and heavy rains and hail that just destroys people's trees. And, people go door to door, hey, we'll clean up your yard for you. Are we kind of seeing some of these similar situations with plumbers or people even posing to be plumbers after storms like we saw last week in those temperatures? And should we be wary of situations like that?
We're not seeing that yet in our area up here in the Panhandle, but it could be happening downstate where they've had bigger issues because a lot of contractors will go down there and try to help. That doesn't mean it's always bad. It just means you should really check people out, and a good reputable company will give you the time and the opportunity to do that. So when there's a bad situation and a lot of people in the community are in need at one time, you will have door-to-door companies that are willing to help. And there are going to be companies in there as well and individuals who are only want to take your money. The only way to tell the difference in those two companies is to check with BBB and make sure that you read the report, the complaints, look at the rating, and know that company before you give them any money. If they're at your door and you need help, that's a dire situation and you're going to want to hire them right away. But again, just take 5 minutes, look it up on your phone. There's a BBB app. Look it up on your tablet, however you make a phone call and get that information. The company will be more than happy to wait for you to do that if they're a reputable and a good company.
And on the topic of paying, is it ever a good idea to pay for all of the repairs up front?
You never want to pay for everything up front. And most consumers are not asked this, and businesses don't ask them. Businesses typically do the work first. They complete the project, and then they ask you for payment, especially in the plumbing industry, which is what we're talking about. If it's a really large project, they might want some money down up front, but definitely not the complete amount of the job until it is completely finished. And, you want to inspect it. And if your job needs inspection by a city official, you want to make sure that gets done too.
All right. And finally, if we do encounter a scammer or we feel that what we're about to walk into may be a scam, what are some steps that we need to take?
Whether you think you're being scammed or it's just a bad business that you had an encounter with, call the Better Business Bureau. You can reach us directly at 379-6222. Go online to bbb.org. Let us know what's happening and find out about that company, before you give them any money and definitely before you sign anything.
All right, Janna Kiehl, you stick around for me. I got a couple more questions for you.
All right.
But always, for everyone watching this, we have some more information below down in the story. Janna, thanks for being with me today.
My pleasure. Thank you.